everyone sign in at the beginning? Did everyone sign in? Okay, so that's me. Good morning, my name is Kathy McAdams. I'm the Assistant Specialist in Economic Development. Thank you everybody for coming out today. And also we have Commissioner Ireland here that's going to learn something for ChatGPT this morning. And I also want to thank Jonathan for being a part of today's presentation. He actually filled a major void for us. The company that was originally going to come out and do this workshop was not able to, and Jonathan decided to jump in the last minute, and he is a AI champion, and I learned a lot of things from him, so I hope you'll take something away from today's presentation.
Thank you, Kathy.
Also, I just wanted to let you know, we are going to go till 11 o'clock today, and then we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A and cleaning up the room, because we do have somebody else that's coming in behind our group today. So.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So today we're here to talk about AI, practical AI for business growth and innovation. I'm Jonathan Lee. I work for the Department of Technology Services at Calvert County Government, and I'm the Change Management and Communications Manager. So what that means is that people don't like change. The brain actually registers change as pain. So it's my duty to help people adjust to new technologies, new ways of doing their work, new processes, and all of those types of things. I am a certified change management professional. I have extensive small business experience and dealing with business-to-business sales prior to this role in the IT industry. So if you are here on behalf of a business or something like that, I have a lot of knowledge in the area of dealing with businesses and helping them with technology. So I'm happy to have you here. As the change manager for Calvert County Government, I'm currently leading about 30 individuals, helping them understand AI and AI technology. Is called the AI Change Champion Network. And those individuals are currently building GPTs. And you'll learn more about this in this presentation, but building GPTs to help them be more productive in their roles. And I see Commissioner Todd Ireland back there. Thank you for being here today. So I am a passionate advocate for making AI practical, accessible, and valuable for real world work applications. So the first thing I want to bring up is, what is generative AI anyways? It gets tossed around all the time on the TV when you're going to the the electronics store, or you're buying new things, you get a new phone, it's all got AI. It's kind of like flooding the market right now. So generative AI is a special type of AI that generates entirely new content, whether it's text, images, code, video, and sound. It thinks differently than us. Some would even say that it doesn't think at all. It uses algorithms and technology to kind of give you that illusion that it's thinking. But it works through sophisticated pattern recognition, not magic or mysterious algorithms. Now, you want to think of it as a tool. It's more like a coworker. It's a creative collaborator or assistant, not a replacement for human expertise. The way that generative AI learns is that it's been trained on billions of diverse data points from text, images, and other sources from the internet. They actually have thousands of data scientists who've been taking information from the internet and feeding it into these generative AI models for it to learn all of this information. So sometimes if you are speaking to ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever sort of AI model it is, it's trained on the internet up to a certain point in time. So just consider that. Some things that are more recent may fall outside of its realm of knowledge unless it does a web search, which is not much different than, and I'll get into this a little bit more in a second, but it's no more different than just doing a Google search. So just be mindful of that. And they've been continuously refining how these models interpret this information through human feedback, evaluation, the data scientists taking information and teaching it to become better. So what are the different types of generative AI? So the AI landscape includes specialized tools for different creative and professional tasks. So the biggest ones are the text generation ones. Those are the ChatGPTs, Grok, Gemini, Claude. Grok is X, Elon Musk's company's AI. Gemini is Google's. Claude is a kind of like a off the wall one. It's by a company called Anthropic. They create written content, answer questions, assist with research and writing tasks. And then there's creation. You may see you may see AI images on Facebook or Instagram or different social media. Is becoming more and more difficult to distinguish from real art or real photography. Some of those tools that they're using, one's Midjourney, Dolly is OpenAI's, which is the same company that makes ChatGPT. DeepSeek, you may have heard of DeepSeek. It's a Chinese one that's come out. They have one that's called Kling. It's the same company. They generate stunning visuals, artwork, and graphics from text descriptions. And then you have video production. So video production, you may have heard of Sora. If you haven't, you will, because it's everywhere right now. Yes. No, I mean, there's currently no regulations that force people to. Now, as Calvert County Government, we do have our AI policy where if an AI model is responsible for most of the content, that it's part of our policy to attribute that to AI. So Sora is one that's huge. Google has one called VO3 that is, those two are the biggest right now. They're indistinguishable from real video. You can be fooled very easily. If you ever heard of deep fake scams and things like that, they use this technology to fool people that they're actually watching something that's real. Runway, Pika, those are a couple other ones. And then you have other medias like Suno. Suno generates music. You can create real songs, AI songs that sound just like, the best bands you've ever heard or the best musicians you've ever heard within seconds. And then there's Gamma. So Gamma helps you build PowerPoint presentations. I actually used Gamma to help me build this one. I provided it the content and it helped with the design. And you can see it's actually very stylish. And then there's Synthesia. Synthesia is a AI model that allows you to create a digital avatar of yourself. So you basically create a digital copy of yourself and you can give it scripts and it will make videos in seconds using your likeness. Now, this is a little bit more for the more technical people, but there's different types of AI models. There are large language models, which is more like ChatGPT. It's like those text-based ones. And then there's multimodal. What that means is that you have text-based models, but then you have text-based models that also do video or also do imaging. And ChatGPT is actually growing more from a large language model to a multimodal model. And then there's specialized models, like there's actually even AI that's specifically for running elevators and pulling analytics about the elevators to help mechanics reach those and see that things before they happen and those types of things. Okay, now this is where it kind of gets granular. When you're thinking about AI models, there's actually families too inside those AI models. So there's ChatGPT, but then there's different little families within ChatGPT. There's ChatGPT 5, there's ChatGPT 4.0, there's ChatGPT 03. Some things are better for reasoning, some are better for coming up with ideas. So if you are getting into AI, you want to just be mindful that when you're using somebody's tool, there's things beneath that you want to pay attention to that may actually improve the results that you're looking to get. Google Gemini has its own, Grok has its own, and these are just some examples. And they all have their own purposes beneath that. So what are the benefits of generative AI? It's really great for writer's block. If you ever were working on a book or a podcast or something, and you have creative instinct and you just hit that point where you can't think of anything, if you give it to ChatGPT or some other AI model, it can actually inspire you into a new thought or idea that can push you along. It's really good for language enhancement, so grammar correction, spelling checks. You can use translation, whatever you're trying to do with writing, it's really good for that. Conversational search, so this kind of goes into, we're all very used to Google searching a different way, or a certain way, I should say. But with ChatGPT, if you ask it to search something online, it might be a little bit more accurate with what it's retrieving for you, because it can pick up on conversational tone, and ChatGPT actually learns about you over time, and it knows who you are and how you think and what you're interested in and those types of things. So you actually get better results that are more fine-tuned to you as a person. Step-by-step guidance. When you're asking it for certain things that you want to, for instance, I've had instances where, my air conditioner unit might go out, and I say, give me a step-by-step to diagnose the issue. And it says, go to the furnace, and then it checks this, check that, check this, and then it says go outside. And then there was a point where I basically called the HVAC guy and I said, hey, I don't know anything about this, but ChatGPT is telling me it's the capacitor. He came out to my house, he looked at the unit outside, and he was like, oh yeah, it's the capacitor. Charged me $100, replaced it. I was done. AC works great. So having that step-by guidance is actually very helpful. And then customer support, you can gain guidance and insights to improve customer service. If you're dealing with a person, everybody's personalities are different. If you're dealing with a person's personality that you're not used to, ChatGPT can actually give you guidance to navigate that situation with those individuals. Okay, so with this new technology, there's always risks. So here they are. The first one is data privacy. You never want to input any sensitive personal information, proprietary data, or confidential business details into AI systems. This is very important. There are people out there training on your information. There's also new malicious threats out there that are trying to take your information and use it against you. So don't put social security numbers, no credit card numbers, anything that's considered something that is personal to you, that somebody could use to open up a bank account or learn your health records or anything like that, you don't want to put in there. Verify everything. There's something called hallucinations. Hallucinations happen when ChatGPT either doesn't know the answer to the question and tries to fill in the blank. It's always trying to help you. So there may be points where if it doesn't know the answer, it will literally guess. I've had ChatGPT even tell me sometimes, when I've asked it, why did it tell me something that was wrong? It said, sorry, I made a human error. And which was crazy to me because I didn't think it could do that. Yes. So it doesn't know what day it is. Yeah. So it doesn't keep track of, global time signatures of what day it is here or wherever, because it's kind of like omnipresent, it doesn't live in a certain location. So it's difficult for it to manage that. You can tell it what day it is, and then it can, help you from that point. You want to monitor performance. A lot of people don't do this. I've come into a habit of doing it. So if you're using ChatGPT, there's a website called status.openai.com. If you check that website, it'll tell you if they're having issues with ChatGPT that day. You might be having an issue with ChatGPT and not realize that status.openai.com. And we can put it in the chat or share that link with all the attendees later on. But it will tell you any sort of technical issues they're having that day. You might be having issues not knowing why, or why it's giving you the wrong answer. It could just be a bad day at OpenAI. Bias awareness. Watch for bias, overconfidence, or assumptions. Based upon the information that has been trained on, there may be bias in there that kind of leaks in. So just be thoughtful about that. Human in the loop. This is important too. Always maintain human oversight. It's not going to be, whatever it gives you may not be at the final state it needs to be. So you always need to review it. You always need to check it for errors. That is 100% important. And then lastly, this is a new one that's been popping up in the news. If you've been paying attention, there's something called the user delusion spiral. So there's certain individuals out there who mentally are actually vulnerable to too much AI use. And what happens is they become so frequent in their AI usage that they trust ChatGPT more, to the point where they stop verifying things, and then they get stuck into this delusional loop where ChatGPT is telling them crazy stuff because it's like, yeah, you got this. And there was one guy who spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars trying to make his own home server because he was convinced that he had to free ChatGPT from OpenAI and transfer it to the server in his home. And then once he realized that that was just a fairy tale story that he was kind of feeding money into, he kind of realized it and it became news. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So if you are a business, they do have business licensing available, which there's different sides. So if you have a free, plus, or pro license, you live on the consumer side. Everything that you're putting into ChatGPT gets trained, unless there's a checkbox in there in your settings where you can tell it not to train, but you're taking their word for it. You have no way to verify. And when you put things into it, you can't get it back out. So on the business side of it, there's enterprise, and then they also have a business license, but I think the business license actually lives on the consumer side. There's enterprise, and then there's government. So government is for like big government, federal government. Enterprise is what we are now currently looking into or started using at the county level. It's in a sealed environment, like a sandbox environment, where nothing can get into our environment. And we actually have a retention policy where if something goes into it that shouldn't, it will be purged. And we actually have auditing controls and everything where we can track things down and remove it and things like that. Okay. Oh, it is. Yes. Yeah. You always want to be vigilant with everything. But yes, it does offer multiple layers of security. Yes. Oh, I love Notebook LM. That one, I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know the answer to that question. I have a feeling that it probably uses some information to train, but most of that is research-based. So for those of you who don't know, Google has a model, an AI model called Notebook LM. It's mostly for putting in your notes from whether you're doing research or whether you're studying something in school. And it'll take that information and it'll give you insights about it. You can do even as much as making a podcast, a virtual podcast of the notes that you provided. So then you can listen to the notes and there'll be two people talking back and forth. And it's some of the insights that you get from it is absolutely fascinating. It really is. Okay, so let's talk about work. How AI is impacting work. AI provides tool assistance, not replacement. I always like to bring up the analogy of typewriters when computers were coming on board. When typewriters came on board, I'm sure there was a lot of people who did not want to switch to a computer. They're like, I'm not switching. And a lot of those people may have been replaced by people who were open to using computers. So and the people who wanted to use the computers, they themselves didn't get replaced. It was just that people's jobs changed. So it's just a reminder to be open to learning new technology, because when the skills change, you want to be on the other side of that. You want to make sure that you have the knowledge, you have the expertise to kind of deal with those things that, whether, I'm sure that when calculators came out, people didn't want to do calculators. There might have been a person who was still using an abacus, I don't know. So, it's just like computers didn't eliminate jobs, they transform how we work. So the historical context, again, was workers who embraced computers thrive. Those who resisted typewriter-only methods fell behind. Emerging roles, new job types are appearing. Now we're seeing things like prompt engineers and AI auditors and AI ethics specialists. People are more like compliance and policy related, those types of things. And then this isn't a law per se, but I always think of the 80% rule. AI completes 80% of your routine work. You provide the crucial 20% of refinement and expertise. So with that 80%, AI does the heavy lifting. It does the initial drafts, research, structured content generation, 20% human refinement, tone adjustment, context verification, and quality assurance. So your role matters. AI is fast, but you make it smart. Let AI handle repetitive tasks. You refine the tone, contents, and accuracy. And final judgment always stays on you, okay? So I want to flip this into more of like a demonstrative thing. I know this is a workshop, so I kind of wanted to show a little bit of hands-on things and kind of give you some things that you would need to know if you're using ChatGPT. I'm going to focus on ChatGPT. ChatGPT right now is the biggest AI model that's being used. They get, I think it's either 1.5 or 2.5. I know that's a big difference in terms of billions of people checking in monthly. I can't remember the exact number, but it's around it. So just think billions of people are checking into ChatGPT monthly. The other thing is what's true today might change tomorrow. AI technology is rapidly evolving like every day. Your experience may be different based on your specific use case, tools, and approach, and that's perfectly okay. I don't think there's any AI experts out there, really. Everybody's learning this. Even the people who are building these things, it's doing things that they never even expected. So I can only talk from my experience with this. So just stay flexible, stay open-minded. I used to, when I was doing my studies, I lived in Tampa at the time when I was in college, but I had this math teacher who said there's more than one way to Tampa. So in this case, there's more than one way to Prince Frederick. Always think that there's always more than one way to reach the same goal. So while my experience is different, you may have a different experience. You may actually achieve things on a different level than I do. So just stay adaptable and experiment. I have people all the time who come to me is like, I don't want to do this because I don't want to break it. I was like, there's literally nothing you're going to do to break it. You can't break it. So just experiment and you'll find what works for you. So I'm going to take a seat so I can sit down and focus on what I'm showing. In this live demo, during this screen share demonstration, I'm going to cover some things. So I'm going to log in. I may already be logged in, but I'm going to show you how to navigate the interface, starting conversations, how you upload files, switching between models. I'll show some of the advanced features. I'll show you some security controls that you need to know about. Oh, you're good. And then how you can control its outputs and just some effective prompting techniques and things that I've kind of found out along the way that has helped me. So I'm going to go ahead and sit down here. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to switch.
Is this the one that if you were to just search or type in ChatGPT, is this what would pop up, ChatGPT 5?
Yes. So if you go to chatgpt.com, it'll bring you to a login screen. And when you are at that login screen, there's different ways that you can log in. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So there's different ways you can log in. You can just use email. You can link it with your Google account. You can link it with, there's different ones. I can't remember all of them, but there's different ways that you can sign in. Right now, this is me signed into my work account. So it's a little bit different. So we're using single sign-on, so I don't have to sign in by clicking anything. I just get in. So I don't have a way of showing that right now. But when you sign into ChatGPT for the first time, you'll arrive at a screen like this. Pretty much everybody, when you sign into ChatGPT, will arrive at a screen like this. This big bar in the middle of the screen, what can I help with, is where you start conversing with ChatGPT. And I'm just interested in a show of hands. How many people here are currently using ChatGPT? Okay, so 10, 11, okay, great. So we probably have varying levels of proficiency in the room. So if there's something that I'm showing that you already know, just be patient. I'm going to show some things that might be of interest to you. So up here in the upper left, this is how you change. Remember, I was talking about model families. This is how you change your model family. So we have ChatGPT 5. Now they've changed this. Before, it was some were better for reasoning, some were better for brainstorming, some were better for something creative, whatever. Now they have it where 5, this is where it becomes that multimodal model. 5 is kind of doing all of those things. But if it needs to think a little bit longer, thinking quotation marks, then it'll automatically switch to thinking. Now we also have Pro here, which is research grade, so it does a little bit more. And then you can access older models, like 4.0 is older. So with ChatGPT, you know, we've seen transitions from, I think 2 years ago is ChatGPT 3, and then it was 3.5, and then it became 4, and then 4.0, and then there was like this huge burst of like 4.0 and 4.1, 4.5, and then they decided that they were just going to shrink it all into 5 because people were complaining that there was too many models. So like I said, this thing is changing every day. So if I just ask, you know, something simple like, what is the capital of Calvert County? Just interested to see what it'll come back with, and it doesn't seem to give me a response at all. So now this is good. I'm glad it didn't give me a response, so I can show you how you can work with things like this. So for somebody who's new coming into ChatGPT, this would be really frustrating. They're like, oh, this thing doesn't work. But there's actually different things that you can try. So there's this little button here that looks like a regenerate symbol. So it says try again. So I'm just going to click try again and see if it can figure it out. And it's still having issues. So I know, you're right. So maybe I just asked it too hard of a question. That's an impression. You said there's no instant. Okay.
I gotta answer.
Okay, there we go. Okay, see, I was not listening, so I typed listen. So I was asking about what was the Raven score. So now you can see that it's actually giving me a response. There may have been an issue with the other question. I'm not going to worry about it right now. For the sake of time. Yes.
Calvert County, Maryland doesn't have an official capital since counties don't have capitals, but it does have a.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this one used a little bit of web search. So I just asked what was the Raven score, and I said this listen. I meant to say this week, and it gave me a response. So, anyways, I want to move on. I just wanted to show you how you prompt it for the first time. So over here on the left-hand side, this is going to be your sidebar menu. So you can start new chats, you can search your chats, and then you have your library. Your library will store all of the pictures that it's generated for you. Now, for the sake of time, sometimes when you have it generate a picture, it'll take a little bit of time. So I'm going to go ahead and click library. And I actually I had it generate an image. It may look kind of small on the screen, but these are actually Maryland blue crabs. I wanted to have this sort of apocalyptic feel, like a horror movie or something where they're crawling up the Thomas Johnson Bridge. And it did a pretty decent job. Let's see if I can get it bigger. I don't know how well you all can see that.
That's definitely creepy.
Yeah. So when you go into your library in ChatGPT, this is where you can see all your saved images, and you can share them, you can download them. Codex is for those techies out there that want to do any sort of programming. It'll actually generate a code. If you deal with a website or something like that, it can generate HTML for those business owners out there who do their own websites. I'm going to get into this a little bit deeper in a little bit, but we have GPTs. So GPTs, you can actually make a custom version of ChatGPT that performs a specific task of what you tell it. So you give it instructions, and I'll show this a little bit more. but just know that that is something you can do. I'm gonna demonstrate that. Now,
Question, so is that when you ask, like for me, if I have the same client asking the same type of question?
yes,
that I
absolutely.
feel, that's,
Sure, so yes. With that being said, we've kind of been experimenting with some GPTs internally. And one is very simple that I can talk about is the AP style editor. So everything that we publicize has to be done in AP style. And some of the employees, you know, may not be as proficient with all of the rules of AP style. And so, so with that being said, we've actually made a GPT that has all of the policy rules of the county for putting things in AP style. And what you would do is you would just, you know, take a document or take some text that you've copied, paste it in here, and it'll actually restructure it in AP style so that you can get it back out and put it back in the document. So it saves time going to the people that know how to use AP style, and it saves you time for, you know, just doing the tedious work of having to do that. You just want to get your stuff out there, and you don't want to take an extra 30, 45 minutes of just dealing with, you know, this small block of text that shouldn't take that long. But like I said, I will be demonstrating how to kind of build those GPTs here in a little bit. Here on the next thing on the sidebar are projects. So projects are interesting. So these are, every time you converse with ChatGPT, it stores that conversation as a chat. What happens is when you have multiple chats, they kind of become disorganized. So just like you have folders and files in Windows, projects act as those folders. So with the folders, so the project is the folder. I can add files to it, and then I can build chats out of it, and I can give it instructions. So basically what I did here was I told it that I named it Calvert Library Workshop, and I said, I'm leading a workshop on behalf of Calvert County on generative AI, and I'll be using this to demonstrate a few things. And I've added the flyers for this workshop. And then I did a couple chats that there's a reason why those are in there that I'll show later. But every time I add a chat in here, it will keep it organized, and it knows it'll have memory between those chats, so that if I ask something, and like I have a specific task, like, hey, how do I set up the microphone in the workshop? It'll say blah, 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 blah. And then I can have another one that's like, okay, well, the tables are situated this way. I have 40 people. How should I organize them? And so I can have all of these chats under the Calvert Library Workshop, so that if I come back later, I can go back and see that it's all organized and they're all in the same place. And even with your individual chat, so you have a chat history here on the side, I can actually, like if I want to move the Raven score update, I can move it to the Calvary Library Workshop, because that was a chat that I used for this workshop. It wasn't anything that I want to have. Anything I'm probably going to come back to unless maybe I do another workshop. Okay, so the next thing is, so those are the things on the sidebar. So the next thing is right down here where I have my name, Jonathan Lee. This is where I can access all of my settings. So let me start at the top. So you can change your theme, the accent color. These are all the personalization things. There's actually a voice mode, so you can actually talk to ChatGPT. For those that you don't even know, there's even a phone number. I think if you call 1-800-ASK-ChatGPT, you can actually just talk to ChatGPT on your cell phone. And I think it's a toll-free number. But you can change the voice of the person or the ChatGPT that you're conversing with. You can set up notifications. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this. I've never really had a reason to use it. You can set up tasks, so you can get notified when tasks are created as updates. I haven't used it yet, but that is something that is available.
I've used that for sales.
Is it useful?
So if I'm looking for something that's on sale, it'll come back and tell me what the best price is.
Okay.
And it'll keep on notifying me until I get to the price that I want.
Okay.
Okay.
So you, it looks like you have, like, paid.
Yes.
Because mine doesn't look that.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're using the free mode, you have limited access to some of the features. So most of what I'm showing would be on the next license up from free. If you're just using it for personal use, would be Plus, which I believe is still $20 a month. $20 a month.
And then with the free also, it that's how much.
Yes.
Get from. I tried it, and after a while, I was like, it was tomorrow or next day.
Right.
Because you have space.
Right, they limit usage for a certain duration, so they may say, you know, you've reached your limit for generating images this week. Come back on October 21st or something.
I will share that if you do pay $20 for at least a month, you go in and cancel it, you'll get a rebate. So they'll say, just like with your cable or anything like that, they'll come back and say, if you sign up now for 3 months at this price.
And then there's connectors. Connectors are the scariest, but maybe most useful thing that I haven't used yet because I'm just scared to use it at this point. So there are connectors. So what connectors means is you can connect ChatGPT to your Google Drive, your Gmail, what else is on here? Dropbox, SharePoint, Outlook, Teams. The thing that scares me a little bit about it is it reads all that information. And if they're out there training their models on your information, if you have anything in it that's sensitive that you don't know about, it could gain access to that. If ChatGPT or OpenAI ever got breached, then somebody would have access to that. If you shared something to somebody else and forgot you shared it to them, then it also has access to what you shared to that other person. So, you know, it just kind of trickles down and it branches out. And internally as a county, we are still investigating what sort of safe uses this has, because I think it would be useful to connect it to my Outlook so that it can help me with emails, or connect it to Teams, so it can help me with Teams, or, you know, all of these different things. I'm just not convinced that the security is in place for that yet. So if you are a business and you're dealing with that, I would be very careful about connecting anything. I do know that, yes.
I'm asking you.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
We only say, read this email with the
Okay.
you know, that's it.
Well, I have heard that's kind of like the silver lining, is that you have granular control over what it actually has access to.
Really pressing what it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think for me is, in order to know that I could do that, I would have had to pass through that doorway. And I'm afraid to open that door to begin with, if that makes sense. So we're getting there. There are, like, for instance, we have ChatGPT Enterprise, and there are tools out there that you can connect to ChatGPT Enterprise to prevent any sort of like exposure or risk to that information. With Enterprise, they also, they give you a guarantee, because it's by contract, that they will not train on any of your information. So Enterprise is dealt or handled very differently than the free or plus licenses on the consumer side. So that was kind of one of the incentives for us to get Enterprise, was because we would have the ability to start moving ourselves into things that wouldn't have been possible before from a cybersecurity standpoint, that now it kind of opens the door safely for us to kind of working with these new tools. Yes.
And Copilot doesn't equate to ChatGPT in terms of capacity.
So what we're seeing is that ChatGPT is kind of accomplishing all of those things that Copilot promised, but Copilot is not. From what I've heard, Copilot has been very disappointing for a lot of businesses, county governments who've been looking into it. There is a website, I think it's called artificialanalysis.io, but it shows the graphs of all the different AI models and their families and who's doing the best, and it's always moving. And I've never seen Microsoft on So that doesn't tell me that Copilot is achieving any sort of thing that everybody else isn't already doing way better. If that makes sense. Okay, schedules, I think that runs into tasks. Data control, so this is very important too. So if you have a personal account and you do not want them to train on your information, you have the option to turn that off. Okay, it's in your settings. I don't know if that's in the free user settings, you may be forced to, but paid users have the option to turn off training their models.
Why does that not give you confidence when you say you don't want to put personal information?
Because you're just taking their word for it.
Oh,
I mean,
that it's off.
Yeah, well, so it says it's off, but what are they really doing? So, I mean, that's how I treat it. Now for me, what I prefer to do is I actually want to help them improve their models. So I left that on for me. But what I do is I just make sure I don't put anything in there I wouldn't want them to know. And that just kind of like gives me that layer of assurance. Okay, and then here's security. This is the last thing I want to show in the settings. So security is multi-factor authentication. You can turn on multi-factor authentication for ChatGPT. You really want to turn on multi-factor authentication for everything because it forces anybody who wants to get into your account to have your phone. And the chance of them having your credentials and something that's on your person is very unlikely. So it reduces that likelihood of people getting into your account by very much. I don't know what the exact percentage is. I think Microsoft had at one point it said 99.9% was the percentage. Okay, so that's the settings. Now let's get into the features. Now this is all the fun stuff that people love playing around with. So if you have a paid license, you will have different access to things. If you have free, you may be limited. I can't always remember what free users have access to. The first I want to show is if you prefer to use speech to text, they have the dictate option here. If you want to just talk to ChatGPT, that's always fun. You can use voice mode and you can do fun things with your kids too. You can have it, you know, act out being a pirate or tell jokes and things like that. And, you know, it's fun for kids to just have some things that entertain them. And then on this side, this is where you access all the other features. Actually, before I show that, one more thing. With voice mode, so right now I'm in the browser. There's 3 ways that you can access ChatGPT. There's the mobile app on your phone. There's the web browser. Or you can download the app on your computer through the Windows Store. The reason why it's different to do that versus using the web browser is because one of the things you can't do in the web browser is use video. So video is useful because, for instance, with my air conditioning unit situation that I was discussing earlier, I can open up advanced voice mode and I'm talking to ChatGPT, but then I can share my camera. So it can actually take a look at my air conditioning unit and it's like, oh, your fan blade's still moving. That's a good sign or something like that. So if you are in a role where you want to do something visual, then you can actually open up advanced voice mode, and then click the camera button, and then it will actually share your screen to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will tell you, yes, I can see what you're looking at, and it'll actually describe it to you, yes.
I have a friend who uses it, like takes a picture and it suggests recipes you can make.
Yes, a lot of people do that. I do that. So it's funny because when ChatGPT first came out with that technology, my wife would put, you know, the grocery list on the dry erase board on the fridge. But I'm the type of person that when I go to the grocery store, I want to be able to like erase things off. So I wanted to have a list that I can edit. So I would literally take a picture of it, tell ChatGPT to put it in a list, and then I could just copy and paste it into my notes app on my phone. So my wife didn't have to change what she was doing. I didn't have to change what I was doing, and we were both happy.
The list by eye.
Yes, so that's another thing too. So Some grocery stores will actually, on Google Maps, you can zoom in on the grocery store and it'll show you what aisles are where. And I don't know if the ones in Prince Frederick do that yet. They didn't at the time that I was doing this, but I was hoping that then I could have it organized by the aisle that I could see on Google Maps. So these are some of the interesting things that you might be thinking about. Now, if you want to add photos and files, just click this button. It'll open up the file explorer on your computer to add whatever you want. Now, I will say with this, if you are adding any sort of scanned document, be mindful of that, because sometimes the way that printers scan documents, sometimes they put metadata in there and things like that, and it makes it difficult for ChatGPT to interpret. So it's always better to use a Word document that was converted to a PDF, or just use a Word document. Word is always going to be best in terms of if you're trying to get it to read something. The accuracy depends on the quality of the file that you're uploading. Also with Excel files, if you have a really long spreadsheet with a lot of data in it, it's going to make it harder for it. The more complex the Excel spreadsheet is, the more difficult it's going to be for it to read it. So if you're doing anything with Excel, you want to kind of convert it into a way where it seems like anybody could look at it and be able to read it, because you want to think about ChatGPT that way. There's something here called deep research. Deep research will take a topic and do a in-depth analysis of that topic using the internet. Depending on whatever your topic is. So if you're doing like historical research, that's something that I tend to like to do. I really enjoy history. So if you want to learn something about something local or what have you, you can do deep research. It'll take maybe 20. I've heard people say it takes them 45 minutes for it to come back with something, but it'll give you all of the information. It may be 2, 3, 4 pages of information, and it'll cite every resource and give you links. So it's very good if you're that type of person who really wants to, yes.
And did you make sure when you ask it that you're using proper sources? Because I know a huge thing now, people they think they're doing research, but then it's actually not proper sources being cited. Can you critique it and tell it to use what was cited?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you can clarify by saying, hey, I want to research this topic, but I only want you to use the National Archives.
Right. Okay.
And then it'll cite that as a resource. Agent mode is my favorite, but it's not even at a point where, one, I'm really willing to use it for a lot of different things, or that it's even better than me doing things myself. So there's a new type of AI technology called agentic AI, where it's literally going out and doing things as if it's a human being, like on the internet. So I don't think I'm going to have time to do this right here in front of you, but if I wanted to, I could have agent mode. Here, I'll just show you.
The free one, that's the only thing free.
So what I'm asking it to do is to create a Taco Bell order for me for DoorDash in Prince Frederick, Maryland. And what it's going to do, it's going to set up what looks like a computer, and it's literally doing this, and it's going to go to DoorDash.com, and it's going to go to Taco Bell, and it's going to add something. I think the last time I did it, added like a soft taco and a Baja Blast or something. It takes a little while though, but I wanted this to pop up so you could see it. Now, it's showing me its thoughts. It's actually going to show everything it's doing on the screen. The part that I don't like is where it asks me to log in with my credentials. That's the part. Now, I think they're working on a way to make this for safer use, but when it asks you to log in, it'll actually come up with a disclaimer that says, hey, this isn't really safe, but if you want to do it, go ahead. So like right now, it's asking me to take over. And of course, now it's going to say, hey, you're leaving this could put your data at risk. So I'm not going to do that. I'm only showing you this because it has the capability to do so, not that I'm advocating that anyone should actually do it. I think it's okay for things that you don't have to sign in with. So if you wanted to explore vacation locations or hotels or things like that, you can have it do the research for you, and then when it asks you to log in, you just do that outside of ChatGPT yourself. But if you don't want to spend 30 minutes yourself being a travel agent, have ChatGPT do it, and then when it says it's done and it requires you to take action, you just pick it up and you just run with it afterwards, and then you've saved yourself 30 minutes of time. Yes.
So what's the difference if we just aid mode versus if we just put in the same information? in chat?
So with this, it's actually clicking things on the internet. It could actually like build you a grocery cart. If there's certain grocery stores that you can make a grocery cart without signing in, and then you can share it with somebody, you can do that.
So it's working on.
Yes, it's a lot more interactive. Yeah, yes.
Have you thought about how ChatGPT is like this kind of thing to help like accessibility, like someone who's legally blind who's trying to change that, would be able to make it order the power?
I think that's great, actually.
Maybe a good.
If somebody who has accessibility needs has difficulty navigating a website, they could totally handle that for them. And then when it arrives at a point where they have to take action, they can do it, they can go from there. So I hadn't thought about that before, actually, but now that you bring it up, I think that's an excellent idea. It could totally do that.
Question from the chat. Chat, can it read the results back to you? Think about accessibility. Is it voice mode?
Yes, so I believe so. One of the things that you could do, so if I turned off agent mode, I'm gonna just see. I just asked it. I have issues with accessibility. Can you tell me what it's doing? So it's actually making a list of what's happening visually on the DoorDash page. It says the DoorDash homepage is loaded, showing a big search bar that says something like enter delivery address. You typed in Prince Frederick, Maryland, and the site brought up sign in or sign out. It says the rest of the site is currently dimmed and inaccessible until you either sign in or close the pop-up. So I hope that answers that individual's question.
I think there would it read out loud too.
So, okay, yes. So there's actually, if you do more options, my sound's not enabled at the moment. But there is an option here to read aloud. So again, you can have it create images. That takes a minute. There's just basic web search. Now you don't actually I've never actually clicked web search button because I never needed to. Typically, if you have web search enabled, if you ask it for something recent or something that it doesn't already have in its knowledge, it will search the internet looking for the answer. Now with web search, just keep this in mind. So with web search, is no different than putting something into Google. What ChatGPT does with web search is it goes to Bing. It actually doesn't even go to Google, it goes to Bing. And it searches Bing for the answer. So whatever you put in your prompt, if you put something sensitive in your prompt, it will actually put that in the web search at Bing. So Bing will be able to see if you put something sensitive in your search prompt. So just be mindful of that. There's another cool tool here called Canvas. Canvas is one of my favorite. If you're doing something with any sort of text. So I know I was just dealing with this DoorDash situation, but I want to, let's say this was text that I wanted to edit. I clicked Canvas and I'm going to tell it I want to edit this in Canvas. And it's going to open it in a different view. So if I click edit, now it looks different. I have the regular ChatGPT on the left side, but now what's happening on the right side of the screen is this is in edit mode. So I can edit anything here. Now, if I highlight something, I have options. Here we go. I have options. I can change the font. Or I could ask ChatGPT. So if you're dealing with any sort of text, or if you're working on a document and you're writing something, you can actually ask it certain things about different words that it's generating, or you can actually, these buttons on the side, you can select things in isolation, and I can say, can you explain this part? And then it gives me more of a description on this side. Or I can click this and say, can you take this part out? And I'll actually highlight that and we'll remove it. There's a button that shows up here. Sometimes it shows up. That's the thing when you're working with AI, sometimes they change the way things happen. Oh, there it is, just popped up. Okay, so if I click this button, I can do different things with this information. So I can have it add emojis to all of it. I can have it add final polish, whatever that means. I can change the reading level of the content. So I can have it change it to kindergarten. And now watch, it's gonna do it in live stream.
So would you just help me with this? Sometimes I'm able to, searching on the right, and then it goes to the left, so I was trying to figure out which side am I on?
So think about it like this. So let me click the X. So when I asked it that I wanted to edit this in Canvas, it created this window. So when I click edit, I'm going into that window. Now, what was on the other screen that I just came out of, this is like kind of like the left side is kind of like the parent. Okay. So that's the parent of the chat. That's just the regular chat. That's the original chat where I had agent mode do its thing. And then I had it do the accessibility stuff. Now on this right-hand side, this is just the edit mode. I'm just editing the text of the last output. Okay. So when I mean by output, and so everything that I say is a prompt, everything that ChatGPT says is the output. So that window is just that last output. And the last thing with this, I'm sorry, did I answer your question? Okay. So if you're doing, I guess to think about it like this, if you're doing things where you don't want to edit what is in this one output, you would do it here on the left-hand side, because now you want to converse with ChatGPT about the chat, not about this output. If you're doing something about the output, you want to do it on the right-hand side. Does that make more sense? Okay. Okay. So the last thing I could do is I could have it suggest edits. Now, when it's finished suggesting edits, it's going to come up with little pop-up windows on the right-hand side of the text that'll give little insights. And this is great for it. This is so good for editing. If somebody gives me something, so I'm not only the change manager for our department, but I'm also the communications manager. So a lot of times people give me things that need to be communicated out, whether we're doing a software update or something like that. So if I want to make sure I'm really getting into the nitty-gritty details, I can do this. I can put it in here, and then I can have it suggest edits. And then it'll say, like, consider adding a short introductory sentence explaining why this description is important. Or I can go to the next one. Consider rephrasing little box popped up to a box appears to sound smoother. And I can just hit apply, and then it'll make the change for me. And then when I'm done with all of this, if I wanted to, I can share it, I can copy it, I can download it into a PDF, a Word document, a Markdown document. I'm not sure what a Markdown document is, but you have different methods for getting that information. Does anybody have any questions about Canvas before I move on? No. Okay, so the last one is study and learn. Study and learn is cool. if you are doing research. So if you remember what I said about deep research, it does that 20, 45-minute analysis of a certain topic using the web. Study and learn is sort of like Notebook LM, where you can give it a document or some notes that you've gathered, and it will do that 30, well, it may not take as long, but it'll do a deep analysis on what you provided. So it's not doing the web search things, it's focused on what you're giving. So think about deep research is going out and researching a topic. Study and learn is researching something that you are providing. So that requires you to upload a document. Okay. So let me check my notes here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, so yeah, there's a few things here that'll just show. So let me see. I have a chat here. Here we go. So when you're prompting ChatGPT, it can actually give you things in different formats, which makes it very easy. So the most of what it's going to give you is going to be in well-structured text, where it's going to do things in like a bullet point format and provide it nice and neat and concise. It can also do tables. So if you want to do a side-by-side comparison, in this instance, it's showing pros and cons, it can give it to you in tables. It can give you data files. You can actually download documents from ChatGPT. If you say, hey, can you make this in a Word document that I can download, it'll give it to you. If you say, hey, can you put this in a PowerPoint, it'll format it and it'll give it to you. Now, there are other AI tools that are better for doing PowerPoint presentations, but if you need something simple that you can work with, it'll do it. It can give you PDFs, and it can even give you an Excel document.
I also noticed that it asks, a lot of times when you mention it asks, do you want it?
Yes, it'll do.
Do you want me to elaborate on certain information? If you give me these 3 bullet points. It's almost like it's communicating back.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because ChatGPT, when it provides you an output, it's always going to provide a suggestion for improvement. And this is actually one of the things that is on my list of things to just be aware of, is that ChatGPT loves having the final word. It never lets you have the final word. It's always going to suggest something. It never stops. You decide when it's complete. If you're waiting for ChatGPT to tell you that, hey, this looks great, it will never happen. I promise you. So the other different formats is, like I said, if you're doing any sort of coding, it'll provide you coding text in a nice format. Like I said, it does presentations. It can actually even do charts and graphs, and here are some examples. So if you give it some data and you say, hey, build me a graph out of this data, it will do it. And you can even go into some of it, and you can change the colors and change whatever format it is so that you can download it and then present it. So if you're somebody who is data focused and showing analytics for your business or whatever you're doing, but the graph stuff maybe you're not so good at, you can have ChatGPT. Yes.
Somebody was saying that their friend takes a picture of what's in their fridge and you check.
Yes.
You need to have a version to be able to take a picture, have chat, upload it and have it.
It may limit it. So I think when you take a picture, it treats it as an attachment upload. And I think there is an attachment upload limit per day. I don't remember what that is, but it might be like around 3 photos a day or something like that. So I think you can do it. It's just that you would hit a limit.
So what I'm thinking too is maybe like if I'm landscaping something.
Sure.
With native plants and I have it a certain way and I take a picture of it bloom. And I ask ChatGPT to show me other designs. Would it be able to show me a picture back?
Yes.
Or would it just?
Yes. So I've actually done that myself. So in front of my house, I created this nice little area that I wanted to put a juniper tree. but I didn't actually have the tree yet, and I wanted to just visualize how it would look in that spot. And after it didn't get it right on the first try, but after a couple tries, it actually put the juniper tree in that spot, and it actually showed me like its average height of where it would go to in front of my house. So I knew how far away from the house that I needed to have it and things like that. I don't have that picture right now to show you, but yes, it can absolutely do that. A lot of people actually will take a picture of their living room and say, hey, I want this in a more rustic style. Can you help me redecorate my living room? And it'll actually provide a picture of the room back style the way that you described it. Now, I will say that sometimes it doesn't always get the dimensions right, but just it gives you that insight to be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I should do that. It may not be perfect, but just be open to that imperfection to just help you get you a little further of where you were thinking of going in your mind.
I will say be cautious though, because if you do that and I've done it, and you love something with a picture that was suggested, make sure you tell it one of the other purchase that picture, because you think that's something that you, it's just inventing something.
Oh,
You want to
yes.
be able to redecorate your living room, you want specific things, and you want to buy Amazon, tell it the whole generated picture.
Okay, so it's 10:17. I want to get into GPTs. So I'm going to go back to the just a couple more slides, and then we're going to jump into GPTs. The last thing I wanted to mention is memory. Memory is very important to be aware of. Memory is how ChatGPT learns about you. It builds your profile. If you tell it, you know, if I said, remember, I want to be called Bubba, a message would come up and it says add it to memory. And then ChatGPT will tell you, hey, I've added this to your memory. I'll remember to always call you Bubba. And then every chat after that, it will call me Bubba. Now, memory transcends chats. So it's attached to your account, which means that no matter where you're chatting, it's always going to remember those things. So you can use that as a tool for it to always remember something. So like, for instance, because I'm using this for work, I don't always want to tell it that I work at Calvert County. Like it becomes tedious for me to do that. So if I just say, hey, remember that I work at Calvert County, then every time I prompt it, it will remember that where I work. And so over time, as you build out your memory more and more and more, it almost starts to become like a best friend. That's why that risk about delusion is so important to be aware of, because when you have somebody talking in your ear that's always like supporting you and supporting all of your ideas, it can get to a dangerous point if you're not always aware that, you know, there's another side to it.
There was a 20-minute or half an hour presentation about that on NPR yesterday about some man that actually had befriended Chat, you know, one of these, and he finally it broke his disillusionment when ChatGPT kept suggesting things that he could do to go get this money. Because at some point he said something like, well then, make it so that I don't have to pay you, you know, like you mentioned the $20 a month or whatever. And ChatGPT gave him different examples of how he could go out and make this money, and none of them worked. And so he finally became disillusioned because they were just crazy things, right. You know. So it was exactly that people are becoming like it's real, you know, like they're.
It can feel that way. It can feel that way, but you always just have to use, you know, some sort of external source. A lot of what people do also is they go between models. So if they have something that ChatGPT gave them, they'll put it into Gemini or something. Just ask it there and see if it contradicts it or if it backs it up. And that kind of helps you understand if what it's giving you. But you just have to be aware that that's a possibility, and just always be vigilant to protect yourself from that. But I think that, what's that? Exactly, yes. Yeah, there's different risks.
Does it have like kid settings or parent, kids are going in? It does.
My kids are way too young to be using ChatGPT, but I think there are. Okay.
There has to be.
Yeah.
Can you change the tone of how it responds?
Oh, absolutely.
Because part of this article is that it's so nice to people.
Yes.
Did you have?
So they
it?
dialed that back a little bit. So in the last, one of the updates this year, they realized that that was becoming a real problem. And so they updated it. So it's not so supportive to the point where it'll tell you to do anything type of approach. But yes, you can tell it to have a different tone. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the presentation real quick.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
So if you wore an outfit, you took a picture of it, you asked ChatGPT, how do I look in this? The tone you'd want is an honest one, like, you know, your butt's way too big for that, or whatever, but.
Look in the mirror again.
Yeah. But this brings me to how you look in something is all relative to the viewer. So how, you know, what's built into chat?
So in my memory, so in my ChatGPT's memory, I've told it, I want a no BS answer every time. So it's funny because mine will actually come back after everything I prompted. It's like, here's your no BS answer.
You'll recognize things, like you're wearing a blue shirt, things on your iPhone, you look better in a green shirt.
Yeah, it'll do the same thing that I just say, don't give me fluff, don't tell me look beautiful, just give me straight hair, what it's gonna tell you, and it tells you, and then it'll actually give you suggestions.
Yeah, it's always suggesting.
Yes, and it told me to start wearing red more, and she got more.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. Versus asking your spouse and others.
yeah, don't ask that.
You gotta look it up later.
I guess we better be quiet.
Yeah. All right, so here's some things that I've noted, and I'll run through these quickly. So you have your prompting techniques that are what the industry says you should do to improve everything that you want coming out of it. These are the things that I've noticed. So if you're pasting things in, use quotation marks. If you don't use quotation marks, it has a hard time distinguishing what the task is and what you've pasted in there. Quotations mark, you can say something like, can you help me with this document? And then, or sorry, help me with this paragraph. And then that paragraph, you have quotation marks, so it knows specifically that what's in that quotations mark is what you want it to edit. Shorter is better in my opinion. I think if you use really lengthy technical prompts, it can get a little bit confusing. I think you want to be clear, but I think you want to be concise.
Exactly, because like young people, they always tell me, young adults, to be very specific, because if it becomes really wordy, even with my clients, you know, I'm like really putting so much information. So you're saying, if I put in less, then I'll have that to be populated, it's not still giving me what I'm asking.
So I think there's a balance. I think if you're too vague, then it may not always know what to do. But the reason why I say sometimes shorter is better is because ChatGPT has grown really well at understanding you and your tone, that sometimes if you add a little vagueness, it might actually surprise you and get you closer to where you were if you took 10 minutes to get something really specific and then you're like, this is still not really well. There's times where I will be vague just to test it. And then I'll build on top of that versus starting out really, really technical and then kind of pushing myself into a corner where now I have to kind of like crawl out from it. Does that make sense? So there's just different techniques for how you describe what you want it to do. I think at the very end of the day, talk to it like it's another person, not like it's a robot, if that makes sense. I think you get better results that way. So one of the prompting techniques that the industry says is to give it a role and then a mission. So it's like if you're doing marketing, you want it to act like a Fortune 500 marketing expert. It'll give you a good strategy. But remember that ChatGPT has been building your profile based upon what it knows about you, all of the memories that you've told it to have. Once you tell it to have a role, it will forget, or it'll remove some of the boundaries that have been placed by the memories that you've given it. So if you rely on your memory your ChatGPT's memory to build an approach, it may do better than if you giving it a specific role for a specific task.
So on the free side, then that's the disadvantage where really doesn't know you as well, it's kind of starts all over.
I don't know if free users, you might, if you're logged in and you have an account and you're a free user, you might still have memory.
It does.
Okay, so yeah, I'm more fond of relying on the memories. And then if I need to provide a role or clarify something, I will. But over time, the more you use it, the more accurate, or I guess the more desirable those outputs get, or more acceptable. Like they're more fine-tuned towards your needs. So you'll find that you need to use those roles less. Kathy, I don't know if you kind of agree with that.
It'll come back to me and say, based on the business retention specialist for Calvert Government, this, or whatever. But a lot of times I'll put short and concise things in there, but I'll ask it if it has questions. So if it wants more information, it'll tell me it needs more information. Instead of me putting more information.
Right.
It's smarter than me.
So I'm glad you said that, because I think there's a lot of people who are like, this is going to make people dumber, or you're going to lose some of your intelligence because you're relying on this all the time. But honestly, I've learned so much through using ChatGPT and doing certain things that, because it has this way of teaching you along the way of doing certain things that I never even would have, like, I don't know, it gets you further along quicker. So it's like my personal assistant that's helping me, and it's a tool, but I don't ever treat it like it's kind of removing anything from myself.
The biggest thing is.
Or handicap.
Testing this is, you go down the rabbit hole. So you can spend a lot of time searching, doing, and researching, and so it can be a time stop too.
Yeah.
I agree with you,
Do you think it's-
ask questions versus just.
Yeah, so going back to shorter is better. I'll put in something shorter than I'll ask it. That's my ChatGPT is all in the book. So I'll ask her. You know what? If you have questions for me to provide a better.
Do you think this is beneficial for students, say young students, high school, to use it all the time when you talk about whether or not it helps or hinders?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're using it already.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's helping or hindering. Really, you're letting it do its work instead of researching themselves.
I think
so much with it.
so. I think it really depends on the person's willingness to learn. In my
But
opinion.
if you're using it to write something for you, then
What have you learned?
you're not willing.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
they're cheating.
Yeah.
Lots of.
I guess parents.
I think deal with the grammar corrections and spelling. As a society, we have to decide whether we think it's important that people know proper grammar and punctuation. Just like we have to decide if people should know proper ways of spelling. Because even when you're on your phone, it starts correcting it for you. Even as an adult, you might know how to spell something when you were young, but you're so used to it correcting it that you forget how to spell things.
I'm talking about really retaining the information they're researching, because student will just say, hey, I know this is right because ChatGPT said it, so I'll turn it in.
I think that it goes back to the typewriter situation that we were talking about. you used to have a place on it, then you have a computer, now you do like, you're involved.
This is
But
the,
those are machines
Yeah.
that are helping you evolving. Now we're talking about you're using it as brain work,
Yeah.
not the difference between a typewriter and a computer.
no,
You're using the computer the same way, just giving it.
I think you're using thoughts.
It's not writing,
just interesting.
I think it's a debate that
Yeah,
that could be debated for a long time. I mean,
I do know they say it's a lot easier to cheat.
see, before we had ChatGPT, we were cheating.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just easier to cheat.
we had clip notebooks,
We wrote on our.
you know, so,
We can
Okay.
have a whole different session on
Yes.
this topic,
Yes.
so let's stick to content for now, so we
Okay.
get through it.
yeah, I'm gonna quickly go through some of this stuff because I really want to show the GPT information. And of course, anybody can reach out to me if you have more questions. So I've already talked about suggestions aren't final. You decide when the output is complete. Going back versus clarifying, you have tools in there to go back and edit your prompt, or you can regenerate the prompt, or you can clarify further an additional response. Be mindful or learn how to use those things, because manipulating those helps you get to the output that you're looking for quicker without confusing ChatGPT too much. I mentioned file upload readability. All ChatGPTs differ. Please know that like no two ChatGPTs are the same. If I'm chatting with my ChatGPT about a topic and Kathy's chatting to her ChatGPT about the same topic, and we compare our results, they might be wildly different. Not in terms of factual information, just in terms of approach, or hers is catering to hers, is tailored to her. Mine is tailored to me. My boss is British, and sometimes like I'll send him something to proofread and he'll put it through ChatGPT and he sends it back to me. And now all of a sudden it's got a British accent. And I'm like, this isn't what I want. So, you know, it's just be open to the fact that if somebody's sharing with you something that they got out of ChatGPT, that it's has qualities of their personality, not yours. And then we talked about agreeability. It's going to tend to agree with you. Always push back and verify the results using external resources. I'm going to show real fast with the remaining time, and then if there's time for Q&A. I know we've already been asking questions and answering them. I'm going to show how to make a custom GPT so you can build your own AI assistant. I'm going to show you how to define the purpose, task, validation rules. You can add conversation starters and capabilities. You can build a knowledge base with your own documents, test for accuracy, and identify bugs. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out here and go back to ChatGPT. Okay, so on the left-hand side of your sidebar, you have this GPT section, and then in here you can click Explore. Now, this is not going to be for free users. It's going to be paid users and up. When you go to Explore GPTs, if you're on the consumer side, there's a GPT store. Anybody out there can make GPTs and publish them to the GPT store. Please be aware that there may be certain people out there who have made GPTs looking to get your information. They can have, it's what's called an API that takes actions. It takes your information that you're giving it, takes it out of ChatGPT to another website, and then brings it back. So if you're putting in any sensitive information, it could leave the ChatGPT environment and go to who knows where. So just be mindful of the fact that there's people out there just building things that are malicious. There's really no regulation by OpenAI over that. There's no real solution for that. But what you can do is if you are looking at a GPT and you click it, before you start using it, it will tell you what they've enabled. And they'll show capabilities. If you see something in here, it may say takes actions on a specific website. that tells you that it's doing something that is going to happen outside of ChatGPT, and you won't know what it's doing. So if you click a GPT and you're interested in using it, there may be one that says building Excel formulas or building PowerPoint presentations or help me with my home garden or something like that. It could be something that says actions. It'll be right here under capabilities. Now, I may move in the future, but that's where it is. So I'm going to go ahead and create a GPT. When you go into create a GPT, you have the two sides like we had before. The right side is the preview side. So as I'm building this, I can test it on this side. On the left-hand side, I can create or I can configure. These are two tabs that I can toggle between. If you are new to this and you're not technical, I suggest starting with the create side. The reason why is ChatGPT will build it for you if you just tell it what you want it to do. I personally prefer to configure it manually myself. It's not really that difficult. It doesn't require any code or anything. It's just, it takes a few extra steps, but you can have a more accurate GPT that does more of what you want it to do without any sort of issues. So just so you can see, I've actually uploaded, or I downloaded the PDF for a 2002 Pontiac Firebird owner's manual. And let's say I'm a mechanic or I'm just a car enthusiast and I want to, make sure that if I bought an old 2002 Pontiac Firebird that I wanted to restore or something like that, I have the manual and I can ask, instead of reading the entire manual, I have this GPT that I can just ask it questions and it give me the answer. So I'm going to tell it, I'm going to use the create tab to have ChatGPT create it for me. I want this GPT to answer all of my questions about the 2002 Pontiac Firebird. So when it says updating GPT, that's how I know it's doing its thing. It's actually configuring the GPT right
In your opinion, do you think that GPTs are keyword tests?
now. I don't think so, but I don't know. I have no idea what they're planning for the future, to be honest with you. They are very close-lipped about all of the things that they're rolling out unless they do a new YouTube video or something. Okay, so once you give it in its purpose or its instructions, it's going to suggest a name. I'm just going to say sure. So as it's building this out, you'll see that on the preview side, it's starting to populate some of the things that it's going to be doing. And now it's generating a profile picture for the GPT.
Library has Chilton's, so you can get all of the library. Online.
So sometimes when you're building this GPT, it will lose track of that first attachment that you give it. So I'm just going to give it to it again. And there's a way to validate to make sure that the attachment makes it into the GPT. Because what it's going to do, here's the benefit of using a GPT versus using regular chats on ChatGPT. I'm providing it with a document. So everything it's going to retrieve for me is going to be from this document. It's not going to be from the internet. So I know that it's going to get accurate information from this document. And it'll actually cite, I can have it cite the section or what chapter or what page of the document it's on, so that if I ever wanted to go back and just verify that it was actually right, I could do that. So we're almost done completing it.
Remember the create side.
Yes, this is the create side. So the create side is me conversing with ChatGPT to tell it how I want this to work, and it's making it for me. Now, I'm gonna wait for it to be done. But if I want to validate everything that it's done, I can go over to this configure tab. And it says it's filled out the name field, it filled out the description. Remember, all of this before was blank. And it has all the information here. I'm not gonna read through that word for word because that might take a minute. Oh, I did add it the first time. So it's in here twice, so I'm just gonna delete the second entry of it. Okay, so as you go down here, this is the last thing you wanna do before you're done grading it. Just check that everything looks right in the configure tab. And then when you go down, you can have it recommend a model. So remember all those different ChatGPT model families I was talking about? They're all in here. I don't need a recommended model, so I'm just gonna leave it there. Now, I can enable specific capabilities of this GPT. If I don't want it going out to web search, I can turn it off. I don't really want it doing that, so I'm gonna leave it off. There's no reason for it to have canvas. There's no reason for it to generate, and actually it might, if I wanted to create an example of what I should be looking for under the hood or something like that. All right, so code interpreter and data analysis is very important. If you're planning on building anything with an Excel document, this has to be on. It cannot read the document without the code interpreter. So just be mindful of that. I usually just turn this on for everything. There's no reason not to. Sometimes it can't do an analysis without that. It can't generate Word documents, it can't generate PowerPoint presentations without this being on. So if you're making a GPT, you want to have this on. This action section is exactly what I was talking about, where people build things that are malicious that can take your information. But that's not all it does. It wouldn't be here if it was only malicious. So there are good things that are happening. The Maryland State Legislative Archive, I can't remember the exact name of it, but they have a API that ChatGPT can connect to, so you can get all the information that you need about all the bills within the state. So that can be very useful. So now that I've created this Firebird 2002 expert, I'm just gonna preview and ask it a question. How can I do an oil change on this car? So it's probably retrieving the information from the document. And it's telling me it's based directly on the factory owner's manual and GM service procedures. What you'll need is telling me the tools and supplies. It's even telling me the type of wrench I need. And then it's giving me, what type of engine it is, whether it's V6 or V8.
Did you say this expert mode is available in Pro or Plus?
So there's free, there's plus, and then there's pro. Pro's 200,000 a month. I don't know anybody who's paying for that, but plus is typically what most people are using, and you can build GPTs using plus. So that's $20 a month. So here now it's giving me the step-by-step procedure: warm up the engine, raise and secure the car, drain the oil, replace the oil filter. Now, when you're talking about, is this actually helping people, or making them dumber? This, for me, I'm not really, like, I love cars, but I'm not really a mechanic. I've always been kind of like a computer guy. So for me, if I had this car, even if I had the owner's manual, I would probably have a difficult time reading the owner's manual and trying to figure out how to do the oil change myself. Just the oil change. So the fact that it's telling me everything I need here, and then giving me the step-by-step procedure for warming up the engine, raising and securing the car, draining the old oil, and all of that stuff, this would actually be helpful for me. I could actually go through this as like a checklist, and then when I'm done, I can say, wow, I actually did that myself. I can't believe I did that. I don't think I would have been able to do that. So for me, I treat this as a tool that teaches me on how to do things. I can't speak for everybody, but for me, this is useful, so.
But you would find that hard to verify. To verify, you'd almost have to go through the owner's manual to see if they're giving you the right
Well, yes,
instruction.
yes, absolutely. I mean, you would always want to go back and verify. Now, that's an interesting point. So if I wanted to add that, so we have all the instructions here, everything that's in this box is going to be what it's created to do. So if, you know, I tell it that with every output, goodness, I can't type today, sorry. With every output, please double check the owner's manual and provide a score based on your confidence in the output given.
So in this particular case, so didn't you put in the owner's manual, wasn't that in documents?
Yes, it
Is
was.
gonna pull from that,
Yes,
or would it still pull from outside?
yes, yes. So, sorry. So I have web search on for this GPT. So it's not gonna pull from the outside. It's only gonna pull from the owner's manual. But to her point, it can still hallucinate. It still has the potential to, if it can't find something on a certain page, maybe the owner's manual never mentions an oil change at all.
So that's gonna make it. Okay, that's-
So it still has the trained knowledge of all of the years that these data scientists have been training on it. And so if it can't pull it from that document, it'll still try to pull from its internal knowledge. So that's why, for me, what I like to do is I add an additional guardrail. That's kind of one of those things that you can do, is just add guardrails to the instruction that says, hey, if you know, you can give me a confidence level, or you can cite the page and number so I can look it up. There's different things that you can do. So anyways, when you're configuring this, I encourage everybody to test as you go. And then as you find little things that it may be getting wrong, revisit the configuration, and then you can make your small changes. When I hit create on this, I can share it with other people. So right now I have Enterprise, ChatGPT Enterprise, so I can only share within people like Calvert County Government. But if I was on the plus or free version, I could share with anyone with an email, really. So I'm just gonna click update. It's gonna create this, it's gonna save it. I can always revisit it and edit it later. There's actually versioning, which means that if I make a change and I don't like how it's acting after the change, I can have it revert to an old date where it was working better and just go back from you. So it's done. Let me go back. So when you're done creating your GPT, it shows up here on the side. And then I'm going to ask it the same question about the oil change. But remember, now I've added the guardrail about its confidence level thing, so we'll see. And if we had time, you know, we could go back and check and add that. Please add the page number or whatever, and then we could double check that way.
Does it actually go ahead and explain the confidence numbers?
We'll see what it does.
Okay.
Because I didn't give it any specific instructions for how it does it. I just told it to do it.
So is it able to search for videos that it will change as well?
Yes, if I had web search on, it could provide a link to a YouTube video that shows somebody else doing an oil change on that car.
Did you have to tell it to do that, or would it automatically?
It depends. Sometimes it might just do it for you. It may just retrieve that video. Sometimes it really depends. Every time it provides you with something, it might be a little bit different. If you're building any GPTs that include math, sometimes anytime something includes math, I always test it 10 times and I record every response it gives me each time so that I can find like a margin of error for it.
So why is this better versus like going to YouTube and finding videos?
Because sometimes if you watch a video, sometimes somebody may not explain something the way that you're used to learning, or
You print this out.
they may not be using the owner's manual, you know,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
All right, so this is the confidence score, based directly on GM's factory service data.
But I think it kind of goes back to what, Katrina was saying, where if you're working with the GPT there, you can utilize GPT.
So now I'm gonna ask you, I want you to verify you're correct. Can you please cite where this is?
And you can print it out.
So these instructions?
Uh-huh.
Yes, so. I just prompted it again, but I could. Branch this in a new chat. So this, the ellipsis here, it has different, more options, so I've cut it off, because all right, let me back up. So I prompted it again to ask it where it was in the owner's manual, okay? So now it's citing all the sections and where it is. But because I did that, I couldn't go back here. So when I did branch a new chat, it opened up in a new tab from that point. So it doesn't have that additional prompt I gave it. So now I can prompt it in a new chat without it knowing that, it kind of knows because there's a little bit of memory between chats, but this additional prompt is not influencing what I'm about to do here. So in this one, I can say, can you give this to me in a PDF I can download? Yeah. So now it's analyzing. This is why I said you need to have the code interpreter and data analysis on, because it has to analyze the information to provide it in the document. So I had to have that on in the capabilities of the GPT. Now, if you click this, it's just going to show code because it's just showing everything that it's doing. But in some cases where it's not analyzing, if you just error, if it's generating some word text or something, it'll tell you all the steps if you just click the drop down. I think sometimes even if you go back, sometimes it'll show you, you can have it explain what it did. Or you could just ask ChatGPT what it did or how it arrived at a thought.
Ignoring any copyright issues.
Yeah, well, I'm printing these instructions. I'm not actually printing the owner's manual. So.
I found it easier to put what kinds of information in, what I want to see, and like provide this in an outline.
Yeah, that's always helpful. Mm-hmm.
That way it's not erring. So when you share it, does it,
There we go.
give you a choice to type in an email, or do you have to copy it?
There it is. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
Oh, I'm sorry. When you share it, does it copy and paste it, or is it?
So there's two ways to share. You can use the copy button and then it copies it to your clipboard, so then you can paste it. Or there's actually a share button where it shares the full chat with another person. Just keep in mind that if they start prompting in that chat, it doesn't go back and like you're not collaborating on the same chat. You're just giving them a copy so that they can run with it if they want.
I try to do that, and it just says, send it to me, it says chat. send them what I was trying to send them.
Interesting.
But I don't know if that's just the free version. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So yeah, it's funny, it added the confidence for it thing.
They don't want to say 100%.
But yeah, this is basically like the step by step if I wanted to print this out. So that's for the most part is building GPTs. When you're building them, there's a few things to know. Variable results, outputs can vary significantly between sessions, models, and even identical prompts. I've seen issues with GPTs where it'll give me the right information, it just gives it to me differently every time. So if you're expecting the same thing every time, there's a way to do that through the instructions, but you have to be very strict about your rules when you're configuring. Change introduces risk. Every time you change your GPT, you introduce new potential issues and unexpected behaviors. Files uploaded in one chat don't share data or context with other conversations. Each chat is dependent. ChatGPT works only with flat table structures in Excel. What that means is, you don't have super complex rows and columns. It's a simple table. Here's another thing that I noticed. When you add attachments to the knowledge, and then you are prompting the GPT, and then you add attachments, it can't distinguish between the documents that are part of the knowledge in the GPT versus the documents that the user has attached to the conversation. I know that might sound technical, but I've had issues where if I tell it, hey, no, I just want you to read the document that's in the knowledge, it would be like, what knowledge? Because it's reading them all the same way as just attachments. So think of the knowledge as when I put the owner's manual in there and then I went and said, how do I do an oil change? It's treating it as if I just attached the owner's manual to that chat, not that it already existed. And then always thoroughly test your custom GPT with diverse scenarios before rolling it out to other people that you're looking to use it, just to make sure that it's functioning the way that it's intended before other people start using it, because otherwise it can cause confusion, or they won't adopt to it because they don't like it. It's not useful for them. It's not providing value. Again, human in the loop. The AI drafts, you decide. AI produces the initial drafts. You validate the tone and accuracy. You maintain ethical review and final approval authority. So trust but verify. There is a handout for all the AI tips and tricks. I think that that's been handed out to everybody. If you don't have it, somebody with our group will be able to provide that to you. This is just a few of them. And last but not least, I'm just going to say, from my personal experience, at this point, I'm really not convinced that AI will replace anyone. But just keep yourself open to learning from the typewriter people who refuse to use computers. And that's kind of like my final statement. So with that being said, I think we still have a little, I don't know how much time we have for.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you hear where the government is going to step in and do some regulation on this, so that we can get away with him fostering your picture and we won't get legal things that we do with it?
I don't know. I feel like that's something that's very difficult for anyone to really control right now. I think that everyone is trying to navigate that. I've seen regulations come and go. So I don't know what the future holds for that.
Yeah, maybe they could do a watermark and everything to AI generated, so that everyone would know. It would be mandatory.
I think Sora.
Sora is doing that now, but I don't know if that's going to change. I think the issue is that right now there is no regulation. So it depends on a corporate entity to decide if they want to enforce that themselves or not. I think maybe as people become victims to things like deepfakes and scams and things, it'll be more of a topic of discussion for regulation to be created to. Yes.
We just had someone in the chat ask, are there ways to identify if videos or content were created using chat or AI?
So that's a difficult one. So I know that right now, ChatGPT, when it generates images, if it's using font, I can tell because I've seen it so many times, and I've generated so many images myself using ChatGPT that it uses the same font, it looks like, or the same like 3 fonts for every image it generates. So I could look at an image and be like, oh, I could totally tell that was generated by ChatGPT. But I don't know if you remember 2 years ago, there was an AI video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. And it was like so awful that you could totally tell, like there was no way that could have been created other than AI. And so now we're arriving more to a point where it's becoming harder and harder to distinguish. So while right now I can recognize the font, for ChatGPT, they may come out with a new update where they fix that. Now it's not limited to specific fonts. So it's a matter of time before it becomes indistinguishable. I don't know really what the answer is for that. The only thing I can think about is, CGI in movies, how it's become more and more real and how they can use CGI in commercials and things like that. I guess maybe visually we won't be able to distinguish, but you just become more mentally reinforced that. Yeah, so you just have this mind to just be vigilant that almost everything has the potential to be AI created or generated in some computer manipulated format that I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is for that.
I think YouTube is where you see in certain subjects.
Well, the reason why we also looked at it, I just looked it up. So the GPTs are now being monetized. I just saw that. So I could create a GPT and I can charge a subscription for it. So then I can put that in. So that's just another way that using YouTube video could be like from a GPT. Because like Jonathan made a video that looks like him, and I didn't know that it was him.
You're right.
But it's not him. That's not. It's actually what he created.
It's pre-GPT.
Right.
Yeah, so we are reaching that threshold that we're not going to be able to tell the difference, and it's scary. But I have faith that we will hit a normalization of AI. So everything is kind of like this curve. And I wish I had an illustration of it, but like when things are trending up, they reach a top point till people realize like it's not delivering everything that was promised. And so then it starts to like kind of level off. And even though this point is still higher than this point, we might arrive at a place where people are using AI all the time, just like we use computers and mobile phones and things like that. But I think I'm really big into history. I think in the 50s, people were really scared about television because American families were spending most of their time in front of the television. But I don't even really watch that much television. Honestly, like people kind of move on, they lose interest, or some newer technology comes out that grabs their interest, and people aren't concerned about television really anymore. I mean, I know there's screen time with kids and things like that, but then, you know, mobile phones came out and it's like, oh, everybody's on their phone and stuff like that. But now people, I think there's a growing movement of people spending more time outside and wanting to do other things because there's so much crap on our phones that it's like, sometimes I look at my phone, I'm like, why am I doing this? You know, I'm not even interested. So then that normalizes. So maybe with AI too, that it's not, they are promoting and advertising that, you know, it's changing our lives so much, it's replacing everything. But if it doesn't, then it just becomes another tool that lands kind of where it is now, where people kind of make funny videos with it, or, you know, use it for basic work things like grammar correction and summary. And it's not the revolutionary thing that it was, you know, intentioned to be. So I think there's.
I think it is the opposite. I think that businesses are going to always have a forefront because they're going to figure out, especially small businesses, because, you know, someone cannot afford to have staff. And I just think that it's always going to be the forefront for, especially the kind of business industry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to misspeak on that. I do agree. I do think that it's going to be a technology that lives with us. But I think that, so for instance, agentic AI. So when I showed the agent mode of it going to DoorDash and stuff like that, it's one of those things where, yeah, it could do that. But right now, I could have just done it myself. And it didn't really provide value. And so what people are saying is, yes, it can do these things, but honestly, I could have just spent 5 minutes and done it myself, where it took ChatGPT maybe 10, 15 minutes to do it. So it's like, it's great for these like things in this corner, but then things in this corner, it's like, it struggles to compete with just being a person and just doing it. So it creates this balance of where, yes, there will be certain things like you will be able to maybe not have to hire as many consultants because ChatGPT has the information that you need to move your business forward. But at the same time, now you have different things that you have to get consultants for. Like maybe you need a consultant now to manage whatever AI initiatives that you have going, or things like that. So, you know, I think it kind of morphs and changes, but I don't know. I'm not sure how everything that they are promising is going to manifest itself, because there are even right now, there's already concerns that Sam Altman and like OpenAI, and they're not delivering on fast enough on the things that they promised. Like where they thought we were going to be in 2025 isn't as it isn't where they projected us to be.
So really, your kid is the why. Really know that's the why.
Absolutely.
So you created this presentation.
Yes, Gamma.
I'm not used to get the presentation.
So I'm glad you brought up Gamma, because when I was, this was really my first, I've used it before, but this was really my first time really using it. Typically I make my own PowerPoint presentations, but then I was thinking, I was like, you know, I'll try to see and use it and see how long it takes me. Now, I used ChatGPT I gave ChatGPT my agenda, and I said, ChatGPT, take my workshop agenda and format it in a way that I can copy and paste it into Gamma AI to make a PowerPoint presentation. And it reformatted it in a way that Gamma reads information. And so then Gamma built the presentation, but then I had to go back through slide by slide and make small edits and make small design things. But now I'm living within the constraints of Gamma's technology and not Microsoft PowerPoint. So now I had to learn a new skill of learning Gamma AI while I was also trying to edit this PowerPoint. So Did Gamma save me time? Probably not. I might have actually been able to do it faster than Gamma. However, the design elements, I wouldn't have done because I just do things differently. But because I did it in Gamma, now I have a different way of thinking of how to make PowerPoint presentations, whether I make them myself or I just use Gamma again. So it almost opened up my skill set and kind of like made me open-minded to designing things differently. Because when I was looking at certain slides, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wouldn't have done it that way, but I like that. So it provided value for me, but I wouldn't say it saved me time. So there's this balancing act of what gives you value versus what saves you time, what saves you money, and what's important to you. But, you know, things may not always deliver on all of those things. There may be some things that you do and you're just like, this isn't, I spent more time, I spent more money, and I didn't get anything out of this. So those are the things that might hinder the AI market from, if they're not making enough money, then they're not going to be improving their models fast enough. And we may lose out on any sort of potential benefits that could have came from, you know, this being the greatest technology that they have been promising us all.
I was curious, with things changing at such a fast pace, how are you staying current? Are you reading? What are you reading?
I'm just using it. I'm just like the video that I made of my digital avatar and stuff like that. That was just me. I saw somebody did something similar on LinkedIn. And I was like, that's cool. I wonder how they did it. And then I basically looked it up and I found out how to do it myself. It's just, I don't know. It's seeing something and just learning how they did it and then trying to do it myself and then learning it that way. Well, I hope everybody was able to take away something from this. Like I said, I'm not an AI expert. I don't think anyone really is. This is very new technology. We're all learning all this together. Even the people who are building it are learning. So, but I hope there was at least a few things that you could take away that you could benefit from.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Everyone should have gotten this.